What is a Mason? I am.
Thank you, brother, for that excellent introduction. And brethren, don't forget, you too can be a part of these videos. You just have to go down in the video description below and click the link for the introductory video. It'll take you to my website and tell you everything you need to do. It will only take a few minutes of your time. Help me out, brother, and let's spread Freemasonry by showing all the different people from around the world that are a part of Freemasonry and all the different kinds of professions that we are a part of. My name is Jared, and I am a Master Mason in the state of Mississippi in the United States of America. And this is the tie of our Grand Master Jason Jeffcoat and the What is a Mason lapel pin, both done by Edgar at Masonic Revival. You can find more about Edgar and his offerings down in the video description below. Today's viewer's question is, can you explain what is an accepted Mason? I can, but I don't just know that everybody's going to agree with me on this. So I'm going to explain accepted Mason, and I'm going to go so far as to say that it is the most correct term when it comes to Freemasonry as we know it today. So to explain accepted Mason, I kind of sort of have to explain Freemason. And I really expect that there are going to be comments below because there are different lines of thoughts on these particular words, and some are going to want to explain that my understanding is not necessarily the one that they agree with. So make sure you check the comments below. You are probably going to find other people with other answers. So a Freemason is a Mason who is a stone worker who knows how to work a stone that is called a free stone. It can be chiseled from any direction and worked at any angle and be put to use. It is a free stone. So I don't know how else to explain it to you than that. Here's an idea. You're familiar maybe with slate and how it looks like little sheets of rock one on top of the other. That is not a free stone. You start chipping away at it, you get these little plates. Free stone can be worked from any angle and turned into a pillar, turned into a monument, a statue, so forth. So Freemasons were freestone stoneworkers, plain and simple. So what would make somebody an accepted Mason? Well, for that we have to go back to the historical belief that Freemasons, those stone masons who worked free stone, had guilds and would only let people into those guilds for the purpose of turning them into Freemasons so that they could actually work the stone and become a part of the guild of the physical laborers that were going around building churches and other buildings out of stone. But at some point, people wanted to join who were not interested in doing the physical labor. They had some other high-minded ideas that they thought were applicable. And so these guilds would let them join the guild because the guild could then enjoy some prestige. So maybe somebody of some notoriety, some level of nobility, wants to join your guild. Well, what would you do? Do you tell them, no, we're not interested in you being a member of our guild because you're never going to pick up a chisel or a hammer in your life? Or do you say, sure, we'll let you in and, let you understand a little bit of our craft, and maybe, now that we're brothers, maybe there's a little bit of a benefit that comes from that association. So these guilds would accept people in as Masons, even though they weren't out there actually doing the physical work of chiseling away at free stone. So, unless you happen to be a stone worker who is skilled and trained in the working of free stone, I would argue that all Masons are accepted Masons. I, for one, have no business picking up a chisel and trying to go after stone with any hope of making it flat, squared, a pretty statue or anything else. It is just not a good idea. I am perfectly happy being an accepted Mason. So, you can take these terms and expand them even further. Some Grand Lodges and Brethren around the world, certain states here in the United States, also use words like ancient. Some put an emphasis on the idea of the word of the use of being an accepted Mason, and various ways of doing it. But that's my understanding of where these terms came from. Stone Mason guilds that know how to work free stones would call themselves Freemasons, Freestone Masons. And then when they decided to allow people to associate with their groups, their guilds that were not actual laborers in the quarries, they would call them accepted Masons. And that is where we get Freemasonry as we know it today, as a fraternal organization where men come together not to literally carve stone out of a mountain to build a cathedral necessarily, but to get together to learn how we can chisel away at ourselves and turn our spirits and selves into something more acceptable to the divine. So, there you are, an accepted Mason. So, if you're interested in looking this up any further, you should know that there are some two major lines of thoughts being discussed here. And depending on which side of the fence you're on, depends on what you call the other side of the fence. I'm going to go with the terms romantic and historical. So by historical, I mean things that we can find actual written record of and prove. And that is more of what this video has been more of a historical mindset. Whereas the romantic revolves a little bit more around the traditions of Freemasonry and the symbolic lessons that are involved, not necessarily what was physically happening in the world. So take that for what it's worth and do the research yourself. If you have any other questions, please leave them down in the comments below. I look for questions in the comments and I put them over in a different file. And when I get the time to make videos, I go in and I pick a couple and speak on them here. So if you want your question answered, you've got to ask it. Leave it down in the comments. Thank you all so much for taking the time to watch. We'll see you next time.